boy Ancient Albatross here again with the Cypher Unlimited crew. We have our usual suspects of AD or Alpha Dean. We have Spiggs 18 or Anthony. And just as a quick reminder, if you haven't already, be sure to follow us on Twitch and subscribe to us over on YouTube. It is a great help for our channel, and we really appreciate all the support we've gotten so far. But without further ado, Dean, what are we doing here tonight?
Oh man, we're doing nothing else but talking about a great new Kickstarter that's up and running from not only just a good guy all around, but one of our good friends, longtime supporters, and people who hang out on the Cypher Unlimited Discord a lot, gives a lot of information, great out there talking to the people. So none other than our good friend Jason C., otherwise known as Shadomain on all things in the interwebs. Jason, why don't you say hello to your adoring fans out there?
Yeah, one of them. Okay. Oh, well, there's more. There's plenty. Thanks, Dean. That's great. Yeah, I mean, it was one of the first places I stumbled into when I started reading about the Cypher system 5 years ago. And yeah, it's the best.
I'm sorry about that. We corrupted you.
Yeah. I thought it was something else. I thought it was puzzles. I didn't know. And next thing I know, I'm still here.
You remember when we used to get all the people that were either puzzles or rap battles?
Or rap battles.
Rap battles.
That's great.
Hey, Jason, so welcome back to the CU. You've been on several times already, so I think this is old hat for you. But before we get down to why you're really here, right? Can you just tell our audience that may not know a little bit about yourself and your gaming experience?
Yeah, so let's see. To out my age, I started with the Moldvay Red Book in 1981. Switched over to AD&D pretty quickly, and that took up my next, whatever it was, 15 years. Took a break for a while and came back around like D&D 5th edition. Everybody was telling me how great it is. Maybe. But it wasn't long before I started looking out and found games like the Cypher, or all the Cypher system games. So I am a forever GM by choice. This is what I love to do, is build worlds and run games, and especially run games for people who don't know the system. So I've run a lot of cons and on the Discord and all those kind of things. And I also write, along with Gamer Mom Luna, the Shadomain website, which publishes a couple of times a week, articles, news, interviews, anything RPGs, really.
Hey, Gamer Mom Luna, we're still trying to get you on the show. We're going to make it happen at one point in time.
So that's pretty cool. So, you've been writing for Shadowmain.com for a few years now. Can you tell our audience a little bit about your website and what sort of content you produce?
Yeah, so actually, the side story is that Shadowmain, the combination shadow and domain, was the name of my first D&D world when I was like 14 years old. I still have the map for it. So anyway, but what we do is we write an article about some type of TTRPG topic. Every Monday, we interview somebody in TTRPGs every Wednesday, and sometimes it's offhand. Last week we had an interview with a guy I know who designed the fonts that WotC uses for 5th edition D&D. So we do that. We do news items. We do what else do we do? Reviews once in a while. A little bit of everything. And if anybody's, we do everything except selling things. So if anybody's interested in being a guest writer, you can come on board, but we won't be able to write you a very big check, I'm afraid.
You also do great gaming advice articles, because I've read quite a few of them, and they're always well written and very informative. Yeah,
and honestly, it's been, you wouldn't know this from Twitter, where it's supposed to be a toxic community, but the whole community has been great. So a lot of the people we've got interviews with are, a few people that have hundreds of thousands of subs on YouTube, and they did it to help us out, right? It's just the way a lot of the people we met were. So
Yeah, that's awesome.
yeah.
I mean, you guys do it in reverse. I mean, you know, you've interviewed me. Gamer Mom had me on her show. So I mean, it's like you guys do. It's. I think that's what the actuality of the tabletop community is. It's a bunch of people who kind of reach out and help each other, versus dealing with the evil empire, which is that other company. you know.
Speaking of that, you want to plug Gamer Mom's Twitch channel, which is a fantastic show as well?
Yeah, so my partner at Shadomain, Gamer Mom Luna, helps me out. But the main thing she does is she has a Twitch show every Sunday night, 8 to 10 Eastern time. And it is a TTRPG-based talk show with her and 5 other guests. And the guests are different every month. And then all the questions come from the audience. It's just the Twitch chat asking whatever they have on their mind. Everything from, tell us about a time you had a troublesome player at your table to what flavors is a gelatinous cube. So pretty much everything.
That's also a great show to definitely go check it out. I enjoy it tremendously. So yeah, definitely check out Gamer Mom's show. And you said Sundays at 8 p.m., 8 to 10, correct?
8 to 10 Eastern, yep. Oh, not every Sunday. I'm sorry. It's the first Sunday of the month.
First Sunday. Okay, well, that's still...
Oh, but not next month, because we have something going on next month.
Well, I didn't know if you wanted us to talk about that, so I wasn't going to bring it up.
Well, we were just talking about it on all the socials today. That the first Sunday of July we'll be heading off to our honeymoon. We're getting married the day before that, so thank you.
Congrats again. That's so awesome. I hope we get to chuck some funny shaped dice besides other things at the honeymoon, but at least get a one.
We thought about that, but we're like, no, all of our other vacations are gamer conventions. We should do something actually different.
Let's talk a little bit about your current project, The Light Fantastic. It consists of 4 totally original adventures for the Cypher system. Let me know if I get these titles right. It Came from the 50s.
Yeah.
Hint, which we played. Slayride, and a 3-hour tour to the Island of the Lost. Could you give our audience a little information on each of these adventures?
Okay. So they're shorts, not necessarily one-shots. Depends on... There's advice in there for keeping it into 3 hours, but they're short adventures, and they're all light fantastic because they're light-hearted. Doesn't mean you have to be a sitcom actor to play them. It just means they're fun. They're not dark and creepy. If Came from the 50s is brand new. This has never been published. It's a brand new adventure where you play rock and roll teen hoodlums in the 1950s dealing with a rival gang. And you have to deal with them having a rumble at the teen dance while little alien flying saucers bombard the town overhead.
That's also, it reminds me of my favorite movie of all time, West Side Story. They had the little teen dance rumble.
Yeah, it was just a question of assembling all the cliches and then making it work.
No, you go ahead, Jason. I'm going to say something after you talk about each one of these. It's just an observation, which is really cool. But go ahead.
Okay. So hint, this is inspired by classic murder mystery board games. Like maybe Clue, just something like that. And this has been around for a while. You guys have played it. We played it on stream. I played it a bunch of times at Cypher. But this is a completely rewritten version. So the rules are different. You still play a pre-generated character like Professor Diamond and Captain Garnet and things like that, so I don't get sued. But and the idea is you're all gathered at your friend who has just been murdered, and you have to figure out who it is. But whereas the first time we wrote it and played it, you were looking for clues that he left while he was dying about who the person is. And then one of you was randomly the murderer, and you would have to, that murderer would try to collect the clues so he could escape without getting caught. In this case, it's the reverse of that. Your rich friend has written a will and left one of you out of it, and that person killed him. So you have to go in there and you find pieces of his will sprinkled around his mansion. So one by one, you find pieces about who's innocent. And the trick here is that one of you is randomly the murderer, but the murderer doesn't even know who it is.
Oh, that sounds really cool.
They don't know they're the murderer. And to expand everything, the murdered victim was a kind of crazy puzzle maker. He made toys and puzzles. So the clues are all like trapped in puzzles that you have to solve with things like a magic 9-ball or Cubik's Cube or Petty Puck's pin. And there's just, his toys are sprinkled all around the place. So for that one, by the way, that's the only one that's really not straight Cypher. That requires a lot of extra rules. And it's also pretty much not combat. It's a lot of role play, interaction, and exploration. So there's some additional rules to make that one work.
Yeah, I'm really curious to see the rework. I mean, we had the original version was fantastic, so I'm pretty positive the rework is just as good.
Yeah, it involves a lot more stuff, but I don't want to drown in there unless you guys are curious about how it actually works. A 3-hour tour to the Island of the Lost is my mashup of Gilligan's Island and an old 70s Saturday morning show called Land of the Lost. So you're one of the crew of the SS Minnow, marooned on an island, but the island is filled with lizard people and dinosaurs and things like that. And this one has this one I did publish before, but in this case it's expanded. It's a point crawl kind of system, so there's a little bit more of how to run that. But there's also space aliens that land on the island while you're there trying to escape. So you meet famous aliens from other stories you might know, like Zork from Pork, or Alp, or a robot who was lost in space, and tons of fluffy dribbles that get loose on the island.
Those all sound awesome, and we can't.
He forgot Slayride.
Slayride. So Slayride is the holiday adventure where for you play standard fantasy adventure characters when Santa Claus crashes through the roof from Earth somehow, like through a space-time portal. And you have to get him to the top of a mountain where you know there's another portal, send him back to Earth so he can deliver toys to all the children. And along the way, you meet and have to deal with all the different characters from famous classic TV specials like the Miser Brothers and Jack Frost and let's see, Eon, the terrible vulture is in it this time. You could ally yourself with Hermie the dentist. That's a new one that we added. We basically expanded this one too.
Nice. So I was just going to make the observation I wanted to make, and kind of commend you on it, is for us old grognards who've been around for a while, this is like a really nice walk down memory lane, if you will. Stuff that we watched on Saturday morning or every day at 3:00 coming in the house and all of that. So it's really nice to see what you've done here. And again, just kind of harkens to the power of Cypher system and the flexibility of it, because you really couldn't do this with other systems,
No.
without a lot of work, put it that way, without a lot of work. So hats off, commend you, good work.
Thanks.
So we're talking about that, me saying that, we can get to my next question, which is you run and play many different game systems. What made you choose to, use a Cypher system, and how do you feel about designing for Cypher being different from other systems?
The first thing that attracted me to the Cypher system was I had been playing pretty much all fantasy games and with a little sci-fi here, but I had these ideas for stories that were like weird spins on more or less modern, almost sort of what would fall into next year. It's Only Magic. Is it next year? Well, no, later this year, next month. Yeah. So
next month drop.
yeah, that's the next month drop. So
this month, end of this month, they said.
Oh, okay, cool. Yeah, so I was like, oh, here's a system that I could literally do anything with, and then I just started coming up with these crazy ideas. And as you said, I play a lot of different games, and there are some other universal systems out there, but this one, it's just so you guys know it's easy to run. There's nothing easier on the GM than Cypher, but yeah, it gave me the flexibility to do all this kind of thing. And yeah, after a while, you get kind of boxed in with a lot of these other systems.
Did you think about designing any of these adventures in another system? Because I know you do some stuff for Cobalt Press. You write articles for Cobalt Press. You ever thought about designing these adventures in another system, or was it always Cypher or nothing?
Well, the Cobalt Press stuff I do is for their blog. It's a lot like it's different kinds of ways to. It's really system independent. It's not tied to their system or D&D or anything, but it's more about here's an idea. Like I wrote one a few weeks ago. Here's some random tables that let you generate what's inside a haunted house, but it's not specs. It's just ideas. But I'm not designing for them. So for example, Slayride, the initial release, we released it that's more of a linear adventure. You could play that in another system. So we did release it for Cypher and for 5e. It's just better in Cypher. It's more fun. You can do, I don't have GM intrusions. I don't have ciphers in the other games. So
we're going to clip that for a short. It's just better in Cypher. We agree.
Well, we definitely agree. Yeah. If we have to record something for Monty's birthday again, I'll send that one in.
We wholeheartedly agree with that statement.
Yeah, absolutely, without a doubt.
This is your first Kickstarter, right, Jason?
It is.
Since
everything else is PDF, it was just released on drive-through and come and get it.
So why have you learned from starting your first Kickstarter project, and do you have any advice for someone wanting to crowdfund a tabletop RPG project?
Yeah, I probably shouldn't get too deeply into it because this just started Tuesday. It's only a 2-week though. It's what I learned Jess and Keith from Underground Oracle would call a quick starter. So it's only 2 weeks, and after that, I'll probably write more about what you need to do. But I did do a lot of research. I've gone to like virtual seminars about how to succeed in Kickstarter. So I already had some of the ideas about it, what it takes. It obviously takes a large community link. And one of the things that I was kind of surprised at is, roughly speaking, 40% of your donations will come from people who get your link through your email list. And when I say that to younger people, they're like, email? Do people still use email? But yeah. Yeah, I mean, it's all about networking. So what's happened is 10 years ago, right, you might have been able to put a really cool product on Kickstarter and have people stumble across it and go, that's cool, and back it. That doesn't happen anymore because there's just too many of us. There are multiple products every week. My friend Martin, Daddy Rolled a One, launched his Monday this week. Dungeon Coach launched his the same day I did. So nobody's going to almost nobody's going to find you through Kickstarter. It's up to you to do the marketing. So it pays to get out there and talk and get known in all the communities you want to sell to. Also, like, do things like this. Lean on your friends. Make them put you on their shows.
Or we were going to help support. You've always supported us, and we definitely going to return the favor. Yeah. And
Thanks.
besides the fact that it's a great project, and we've played, I've played it. I know you're a great designer, a great GM, and a great person. So, we definitely here to support.
And I mean, like I said, we played Hint. I think you and I went back and forth for a while before you got the 3-hour tour together. We had a lot of discussions on that one because both Gilligan's Island and Land of the Lost were like huge in my childhood, so I remember those.
Yeah.
Before you ask a question, did you look at backer kit or was it always Kickstarter?
Can I say this out loud? I would rather use backer kit, but for your very first outing, there's a few things that Kickstarter gives you in behind the scenes. There's more sort of workshop, help you out kind of things. If this is your first campaign and you're not working with somebody else who's done it before, a little bit more. But I know some of the people at Backer Kit, I would, if when I do it again, I'll probably go straight there.
See, that's great advice.
I thought something was. I thought also there was something that Backer Kit doesn't do first time campaigns. You have to have like a successful one somewhere else before Backer Kit will take you on. Is there any truth to that?
I have to look into that. I haven't heard that, but that might be true.
Yeah.
Or there might be a minimum campaign too.
Got it. So, we talked about all this stuff. With these adventures and everything, did you create any new mechanics for the adventures, or did you use any existing mechanics from the many books that Cypher has, dropped down? Did you come up with something?
The mechanics, the one that requires the most mechanics changes is Hint, like I had mentioned before. Because, and a lot of this came up through playtesting I did through the CU, that one of the things that wasn't, that can be problematic is there was a declared winner, right? Like each player's character could be the winner if they're the ones who found the murderer. But what do you do? Like, does that mean that if you find a clue in the corner and 3 other people are in the room with you, did they find the same clue? So it got to be problematic about, is it better for the GM or for the players if everybody splits up all around the mansion and investigates on their own, or are they supposed to do it together? So in this one, I've actually adopted for the entire game, not just like combat, I've actually adopted a turn-based structure. So the entire game goes by turns. Like, Spiggs, what did you want to do? And then we resolve that. Dean, what do you want to do? And that, which is sort of, there's some modern games that do this. Index Card RPG does this. Shadow Dark kind of does it. But when I say a turn, it's not the same as a combat turn. It's not like you can either move or act and that's it. It's more like you say, in your turn, you would say, well, I'm going to go over to the library and investigate that desk. That would be a whole turn. So it's an abstract term as opposed to like a combat term. And then what you can do is, as you find clues, you can travel, you can do things on your own. So if you find a clue on your turn, you're the only one who gets that clue. But there's also the ability to team up with somebody. So you say, I'm going over to the library. And then your friend says, I'd like to go to the library too. That sounds cool. you have to decide if you want to become a team. And if when you're a team, you move together and do everything together until you decide to split that team up. So it puts you into this case where you may not want to say yes to that team unless you think they're innocent. So if you found a clue already, you may say, well, they're okay because they're innocent. But then that tells everybody watching, well, wait a minute, Ant just said Dean could be on his team. What does that mean? So it does require a lot of that to make it work.
I was going to say that because if I thought Dean was the killer, why would I want to team up with him in the first place?
You wouldn't. So what ends up happening is, whereas before the killer's goal was to steal all the clues and run out, right? Now the killer's goal is still the same as everybody else's. They don't know they're the killer. But if they find out they're the killer, they win the game. And winning the game in this case is narrated. You make the accurate guess. The GM says you win, and that means we tell the story. You found a secret exit out of the house and you escaped and nobody ever saw you again. So that can happen because Dean's innocent, so you say, sure, I'll team up with you. And then Al's innocent. You say, sure, I'll team up with him. Pretty soon, there's one guy standing on the side who's like, wait a minute, I might be... Everybody else is on the team except me. And then they can turn around and guess themselves, even though they don't have the right clues, which is the same way it worked in Clue, if you remember how that played. You'd get trapped and know you were going to lose, so you'd have to make a random guess.
Oh, I definitely want to play the rework. It sounds like a lot of fun.
So real quick, because that does sound like a lot of fun. But if you know the way you're describing it, so you as the GM know who the killer is?
This time, only the GM knows who the killer is.
Okay.
The killer doesn't know he did it. So that gives you the game advantage that, like I said, the killer's goal is the same as everybody else. He needs to find out that it's him. But there's also the role-playing aspect that you have to make up a story reason why you didn't know you were the killer. Like, were you hiding it the whole time? Or did you get knocked unconscious? Were you hypnotized? So there's story to be built in to fill the details. So it's not just a board game, you know?
Just so I know Hint has pre-gens, but does all the other adventures come with pre-gens?
Yeah, so Hint would more or less, well, actually, I don't know if it would absolutely require you. Yeah, it actually would. You'd have to use the pre-gens. 3-hour tour to the Island of the Lost, you assume you do. The others, it came from the 50s, will come with pre-gens, but they won't be absolutely necessary. If you wanted to make a style of character, like, a teen gang member from the 50s, but you make him with your own sentence, that would work. And then Slayride, you could be anything. So I'll probably put in pre-gens, but there's no reason you couldn't. You just make a fantasy character.
And they fully
like Godforsaken.
Right?
What?
Are they fully fleshed out pre-gens, or are they like the Cypher short?
They're fully fleshed out and playable. It's just the story parts that are missing. So you can pick your own name and gender and some of the background and that kind of thing. But all the abilities are right on your character sheet.
Just throwing it out there, since the way you got these set up, maybe like it came from the 50s, is maybe you throw up a curated list, where just because it's such a niche type of area, you wouldn't want somebody coming in with fuses flesh with steel, as a foci or something like that, So I
think we'll end up doing both, right? That there'll be a half a dozen pre-gens, but then there'll be, if you want to make up your own characters, here are just like you're saying, here are the suggested abilities that we think work best.
Since you just working on this Kickstarter and you designing adventures, I think this is a great question to ask, and I ask this question a lot, right? But before I do that, if you have a question for Jason, please put it in the chat and preface it with the word question so Al could see it and copy it over to our document, and we'll ask Jason in the end after we finish asking all our questions. But why do you think Jason makes a fun adventure? And do you personally have a formula you follow when you design an adventure?
Oh boy. I think, well, if you're asking me as a designer, it's probably a different answer than if you're asking me as a GM, right? Because as a GM, I'm mostly just working with the table so we can all get an idea of what kind of game we like, that kind of thing. I'm seriously into like the session zero and making sure, not just safety tools, but making sure we all like the same kind of adventures, the same kind of games. When I'm designing, I want to allow as much flexibility as possible for the players, which is why I've left things open, and why, like doing what Dean said, is important too. That you want to supply pre-gens in case somebody wants to pick it up and play it, right away. But you also want to allow the flexibility if the GM says, I'm going to run, it came from the 50s, but I don't know, in Cairo instead of in the Midwest of the US. They should be able to flavor it. Now I'm kind of off topic though. But yeah, I guess generally I'm looking to make something that is well written enough that you won't have to change it, like some other adventures we might have seen. But there's enough flexibility in there. Which kind of leads me to another point. So 3-hour tour to the Island of the Lost. Obviously, it's based on mashing together 2 or 3 sitcoms. But that doesn't mean the game itself has to play like goofy, everybody's joking around. That's an option. So when you read the adventure, in the very beginning, it tells the GM there are 2 modes you can play this in, right? Like light and dark mode. Light as in we're a bunch of goofy characters and the skipper keeps hitting Gilligan with his hat. Or I want to play this adventure, but I may not, maybe the characters don't make it out alive. And then every encounter has an additional dark mode that you can either change things or add things. So you could play, it basically turns the scenario into 2 sitcoms mashed together, but now it's almost like Call of Cthulhu.
Just throw in horror mode in there, you're good to go.
Yeah, exactly.
It becomes a dark comedy.
Yeah, exactly.
It's a dark comedy.
So I don't think I really answered Spig's question, except that I guess I'm trying to make something that's easy to run, but also flexible. Yeah.
The other side was, do you have a formula you follow when you design adventures?
Oh, yeah. No. No, except that I've run so much that I can, that I know how long to write an adventure if I want it to fit in. So if I'm writing if I'm saying I want this to be a con adventure, I know how many encounters I can get in within 4 hours, or less if you're, you want to know it, allow time for explaining the game. So there is that I have a pretty good idea. If this is going to be literally a one shot, I'll write it differently than if it could be a longer form kind of thing.
I definitely see that point. I prefer to run the same adventure 5 or 6 times before I finalize, okay, this is what I think is a final product. Like I'm currently doing that with the CypherCon games. Yeah. Like I got a predation game that I'm Dino's Daddy Daycare that I'm working on now. I ran it, some good parts, some bad parts. Scrap it. Scrap out what doesn't work. Insert new ideas. Yeah. So I definitely get that feeling.
And I can agree with that. I think I think that's something. What's cool about Cypher is that you can do that. It's hard to do it with other games
Yeah.
because there's so many higher coded elements. You know, you end up worrying about mechanics and tweaking the mechanical elements versus, you know, where with Cypher you can tweak the story and you like just like you've done and how you retooled Hint. You know, it's still the same game, but it's retooled in a whole new way to give you a whole feel. So I think that's just one of the strengths of Cypher that I think a lot of people should learn to embrace. Is, you know, there's no wrong way.
Right.
And like Anthony said, you can refine it, you know, after 3 to 5 times of running it. Now you got this well-oiled machine, you know. So I think that's pretty cool. And
so I don't have a template because, and this is actually something that I could mention. So I think I mentioned that Slayride completely linear. It's like first you meet Frosty the Snowman, and then you meet so and so, and that's just because I know the draw there is if you watched all these cartoons, it's like, who am I going to see next? So that I thought worked that way. The whole reason I wrote 3 Hour Tour, aside from I thought it was funny, is I wanted to try a point crawl. So 3 Hour Tour doesn't have a linear progression at all. There are lots of different encounters on the island, and the players decide where they go. The only thing that's determined is you always land in the same space, and the only way to escape is in the same space. Players can do anything, and so it's a completely different philosophy to design. I had to read a lot about point crawls before I could actually do this. So in some ways, it was kind of a challenge. Like, I've never written in this way. Let me see how it works.
Hey, do you have a favorite pre-written adventure as a player or a GM? Just a favorite pre-written adventure, period? It could be any. It doesn't have to be Cypher, anything. Just a pre-written adventure you either played or ran that you thought.
Yeah, I feel like I talk about this all the time, so maybe everybody in chat already knows. But my favorite pre-written Cypher, or probably anything, is Charles's The Takings.
Oh, nice! I ran that several times at several times.
It is. I don't know how many times I've run it. I lost track, but it's completely different every time. But going back to what I was mentioned, and Dean was commenting on this, the timing part of it, brilliant. The sidebars there that tell you should be here if you not, do this. It's like the perfect con adventure for me.
So you feel about that one like I feel about Castaways?
Yeah, I haven't run Castaways enough.
You did so good.
I've run Tyrant's Key a lot, but that, actually, you didn't ask me ones I have complaints about, so I shouldn't. That takes more work. Let me put it that way.
I agree.
Because my favorite pre-written adventure isn't a Cypher. Keeping the Borderlands is my favorite pre-written adventure of all time. It was hard.
It was in the box when I grew up, so I have sentimental.
More of nostalgia purposes, but
well, my favorite, because I still have run a lot of 5e, and most of those have problems. Can we just say problems? But one of the sort of recent ones, Wild Beyond the Witchlight, is really well written. So if I had the energy, I would run that in Cypher.
But
going back to the past, the one that I have run in Cypher from old school, I think I told Dean about this, is White Plume Mountain. One of my favorites from the AD&D era. And I rewrote the whole thing, so I inverted every encounter. So there's sand all over the place instead of water. And I called it White, WIGHT, White Prune Mountain.
I always wanted to run Rise of the Ruin Lords in Cypher. I'm not sure if that was the first Paizo Mega Adventure, but it was one of the early ones.
Adventure Path. That was the first Adventure Path for Paizo.
Yeah,
but no, I was saying
I always wanted to do that in Cypher.
I ran as far as my favorite old school, is Barrier Peaks. Barrier Peaks was the first one to introduce the sci-fi elements into Cypher. It was the first thing that kind of really piqued my interest because I was always that person who wanted to see, different genres mashed up.
Yeah.
And Barrier Peaks. So, and I've actually have Barrier Peaks sitting to the side over here that I've been tooling around with it to make it for Cypher. So
It's funny. I feel possessive about Barrier Peak. So I think that's one of the ones that Wizards is currently rewriting for, I don't know, this year or next year or something.
no,
But,
actually,
But I still, so a lot of people are talking about it now, and I still feel like they should put spoilers around it. And the adventure's like, what, 45 years old?
something like that. But
I got a funny story about Barrier Peaks. We used to have to travel to go to like this gaming store so we wouldn't get adventures all the time. It would be like a once in a month type thing. Like whenever we went from Queens into Manhattan. Right. So I went with my friend and he brought Barrier Peaks and he brought it back to our local gaming group. And I just remember, everyone, like he was so excited. And then when he started explaining it to the group, they were like, get that crap out of here. I don't want any sci-fi in my fantasy. It was just like the funniest.
Yeah.
He was like totally demoralized.
And that's funny because I never told anybody what it was about. I just ran it,
No,
But
I never.
He was a player wanting someone else to run it,
Yeah.
But it was just funny. It was like, don't mix your peanut butter with my chocolate.
So
Well, now it's so old that we can run it for young people and they won't know.
they have no clue.
And now there's like a million different settings that is what Barrier Peaks sci-fi and fantasy.
Monty already did it with Arcana of the Ancients by bringing that to the 5e people. He did Barrier Peaks before, Wizards of the Coast even said we're going to bring it back, or not Wizards of the Coast, Esper Genesis, the guys from Esper Genesis, Alligator Alley. Is actually the ones who are kind of doing it, but they're kind of updating it.
They've been doing sci-fi fantasy for like the last 40 years.
Yeah, I know. I'm just saying that they're doing the White Plume, Return to White Plume Mountain or something like that. I mean, Return to Barrier Peaks. But Jason, you do all your writing, game design, and the most art for all your projects. Do you have a favorite part of the process?
Writing. Let's see. Did Luna answer this for me? Yeah, I went to art school 30 something years ago, and I've kind of been involved in it ever since. But no, at this point, I would just write all the time if I couldn't, and and I have just as much fun writing about it, like the articles I do for me and for Kobold Press and that kind of stuff, as I do writing adventures. It's just, I don't know. I mean, maybe I would run out of ideas, but it's hard to imagine, right? I mean, I know you guys are in the same position, right? You just run out of time before you run out of ideas. So,
are you doing the layout too?
Yes. Is Ken helping around? Yeah, I always complain about that. I hate layout, but I can do it. So I usually, unless this Kickstarter blows through the roof, I'll be doing the layout. I liken graphic design layout to me is sort of like editing podcasts. It's a thing that you have to do, but you don't have to, but it's a lot of work to do, and it's not fun while you're doing it.
Oh man, you're gonna be busy. You're wearing many hats, my friend.
Yeah. This one I won't do all the art for. That's part of what the Kickstarter will pay is the art. I've done art for most of the books, but when I did the bunch of shorts that I did last fall for Horrors of Pinocchio, I smartly twisted Ken Hup's arm and he did the art, and I get way more compliments about the art than any other part of that thing. It came out great. So anytime there's a suggestion for you for anybody looking at Kickstart. So outsource the art. Find some great artists.
Zeus Legion put up the French Prince of Saint Hilaire.
Yeah,
that's pretty good. That's a good one. All right, Ed, go ahead. So
before we go to our audience questions, is there anything else you want us to know about you, any of your other projects that we haven't discussed yet?
probably. Well, one thing I should say is that if anybody out there wants to do one of our interviews, they're not like this. All of our interviews are text-based. We email you questions, you email us back answers, throw a few images if you want. And it's everybody from I just played my first RPG Saturday to, famous people in the industry. So if anybody out there wants to, just do a text-based interview, you can just email info@shadomain.com and we'll get you some questions.
Nice.
So, too, how many days, just so everybody knows, once again, it's on Kickstarter. Repeat the name. How many more days left? What are some of the backer levels someone could back at?
Yeah, that's a good idea. Okay, so the Kickstarter only goes until June 19th. So it is quick, and it's also digital only. So the reward levels will be are basically a PDF or a print-on-demand file, or both, if that helps you. So those levels are like $20, $30, and $40. Just want to help us out. There's a $5 don't give me anything.
Hey, those add up too.
Well, some I don't know. You're great artists. Like, I don't know what you're doing, but I hope you do a good job.
You haven't chosen the $5 donation.
So yeah,
Thank you, Nana.
You mentioned Six Gun City project.
Six Gun City. That would be. Oh, I can't mention that. That would be the next one. I have to finish this one first. That's a much longer term product. It is a mashup setting and adventure book that puts together Weird West. Also Cypher System, obviously. Weird West, gothic horror, and post-apocalyptic. So it's a post-apocalypse that happens in this Weird West scenario, but the apocalypse isn't like a nuclear bomb or anything. It's like an explosion of ghosts and demons and stuff. So that's out there, but until I finish what we're talking about today, it won't get done. But it is done enough, so I'm running 2 of those. There'll be probably a collection of shorts that'll all tie together, and 2 of those I'll be running at CypherCon.
Nice.
Sweet. So, we're going to jump in our audience questions now. We have a question from some person out there going by the name of Gamer Mom Luna. She said, which one of the games?
I would get the band hammer out. That doesn't sound right to me.
Which one of the games are you most excited about?
Oh, of within this Kickstarter?
Yes, I believe so.
Well, okay. The official answer is they're all my children, right? I love them equally. No, but it is funny. That opinion has changed. I was most excited about the one that's least written. It came from the 50s because that was brand new. And I knew there was so much work to be done on Hint. But I've done some of that work now. And now that I've got the system in place in my head, I'm like, I really want to do that one now. So I'm also going to run one of those at CypherCon. So, nice. But if you ask me next week, it might be 3-hour tour. So it changes all the time.
I'll ask, have you considered adapting any other board games to Cypher System? And if so, which ones?
Boy, it's been so long. Clue is just, so for me, it was a board game because I'm that old. For people a little bit younger from me, it was that movie. Mm-hmm. It's just so like pervasive. I'm not sure what other, I'll take suggestions. I'm not sure what other board game I would adapt. I mean, because some of the stuff I played as a kid, wouldn't make much sense. Like we played a ton of Stratego, and then when I got older, we played the more advanced stuff like Axis and Allies. Yeah. I don't,
I played a ton of Risk. Risk.
Yeah, Risk. Yeah.
Stratego.
I don't know that those would make very good role-playing games. So.
Well, listen, if they could turn Battleship into a movie, I think we could figure out how to turn Risk or Stratego into a Cypher game.
I'll just take suggestions and I'll do the hardest one, whatever I think will be. I mean, you could do Monopoly, I suppose, but
Well, I mean, no, actually, I said, no, think about it. Risk or Stratego or Axis and Allies could kind of be done the same way we were talking about when we talked about adapting. What was the video game? What's the video game everybody's playing?
What, Helldivers?
Fallout?
Yeah, like Helldivers.
Oh, that one.
You can kind of do it that way by setting up, the factions as these things that delineate, tools and equipment to the actual character. There's ways about it,
So probably if I was going to do another one, I wouldn't do it. I'd mash up like 6. That seems to be the theme here as I'm putting together multiple weird things. So yeah, maybe you'd be you cruise a battleship into Atlantic City, and then we'd combine Monopoly with Battleship.
that would be crazy.
That would be hella cool. Jason,
Ken said Hello Kitty Island Adventure.
Yeah.
The city of
You have to do the artwork, Ken.
What is it? The Island of Cats over there in Japan? They got the Island of Cats.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, very already mentioned a great one, a Trainride tabletop RPG. That is a board game you could actually make into an RPG.
Yeah, I almost feel like some of the newer board game, for me, that's a newer board game, right?
Yeah.
It's not classic. Some of those, I feel, maybe I'm making this up, I feel like you can feel the influence of RPGs in there.
Oh, yeah,
absolutely. I mean, come on, look at Catan. Catan is nothing but an RPG.
Yeah. Right, like that game in 1975 would not look like it does today. Is definitely a post RPG board game.
Exactly.
Okay, guys, chat. It's the Light Fantastic. Like Jason said, there's 12 more days to go. Please go check it out. Even if you can't back it, you give them a little donation. We need to help out these content creators, these game designers that are doing. I say this every time we do this. Not only are they great people, not only is Jason a great person, but we need to support our family. If we want Cypher System to grow and build and expand, we need to support these projects because this is what makes the entire Cypher System community grow as a whole. So I would definitely recommend you go check out the Light Fantastic on Kickstarter. 12 more days to go. He's pledging for 5,000. Let's reach that. And I know as the CU, as a group, we can make that happen. And, I really want to see success for Jason and this project. So please go check it out and pledge if you can.
And I'm just going to add to that, as a fellow content creator, this is what Anthony's saying is so important. And it means the world to us because honestly, we like to put content out. We want people to be able to enjoy what we enjoy. And what Anthony is saying, Jason is probably one of the nicest guys we know. I've played.
You need to get out more then.
Well, hey, you've never shown me anything but niceness and kindness. And the reality of it is, I've played with this guy. I've played his own original content. I've played with him running, pre-written adventures and so on and so forth. And the experience is always a good thing. He has something to teach all of us, whether we're a player, a game master, or a content creator. So just take the time, take a moment, even if, like Anthony said, if you can do nothing but $5, and the CU community, if everybody on the CU gave Jason $5, he would be well on his way to start his next project. So that being said, Anthony, take us home.
Oh, before I say that, Jason, anything else you want to say? Once again, Jay, thank you for coming on. Anything you want to say to our audience before I go into my spiel?
I think I've talked about myself enough, but what Spiggs said and Dean said is true. If this isn't your thing, go out there and get on Underground Oracle's Patreon and buy Gonza Game. There's tons of individual people out there in the Cypher community, and yeah, we need more of it.
That's very well said. And don't listen to him. Do go on his page and support it.
Exactly, definitely.
If you like us and you like what we do, join the Cypher Unlimited Discord server for all things Monty Cook games. We have the largest fan-run Discord server for everything MCG. But if Discord's not for you, join our Facebook group. It's not as big as our Discord, but there's still great conversations being had there. Subscribe here on Twitch or go to our YouTube channel and like, share, and subscribe there. We're still trying to build both platforms, and any help you could give us would be greatly appreciated. Our videos are always free, but if you want to help us out or support us financially in any way, give us a little donation on Ko-fi. We'll really appreciate it. Or go to our online store and pick up some cool Cypher Unlimited merch at our online store. And yes, we will have the new CypherCon designs up shortly on that site. So if you want to get jump ahead on CypherCon and get some CypherCon swag, you will be able to go there and pick that up. And last but not least, we love you guys.
Yep, thank you guys so much for coming and watching. Thank you so much, Jason, for coming on and talking about the Light Fantastic and everything else you do. Really looking forward to seeing more from that. And yeah, thank you, everyone. And as usual, from us at the CU, we will see you later.